All right, now listen. I turned 50 last month, and I was putting my glasses on and couldn't see. I was taking the glasses off, and I still couldn't see. I went to the doctor and got the bifocals with the line on it. I didn't like it. I went and got the blended bifocals. They still didn't work. And so I was talking to one of my friends, and she said, "Have you ever heard of low vision?" You know, maybe you don't have poor vision. Maybe you have low vision because, you know, the glasses aren't working. You tried a couple of different prescriptions, and, you know, nothing's clicking. Nothing's happening. And so I started looking around and doing some research. You know how I do, and Googling, and I found Low Vision Restoration Center in Blaine. And you know, just kind of doing some research, there's only a few doctors in the country who specialize in treating patients who suffer from low vision. Now, what is low vision? I had to call Dr. Chris Palmer and ask him about that because apparently 12 million folks who are 40 and older, hand raised over here in Cottage Grove, are suffering from this. And Dr. Palmer, you got to tell us what this is, what it's all about, how it can be treated, and how you help. Thank you, sir, for joining the Shaletta Show.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to talk about something that is kind of under the radar for sure as far as eyes or vision goes, and the patients that we get to serve.
Now, the one thing that clued me in is that something may be wrong over here with me is that, you know, when you have poor vision, that can be corrected with glasses or contacts. You can get that surgery that everybody was getting. It was hot for a hot second. But low vision doesn't have a cure. Talk to me about exactly what that is and what's the difference.
Oh, perfect. So, yeah, that's a very common thing, and I suppose you could say misconception. But the quick and dirty part, or how I would define low vision, is vision that's not good enough to do what you want to do, even with the best contact lenses, glasses, and so on possible. But I think a better way, if you're game, a better way for me to explain it is from some of the patients that I get to work with. And I have a note from a patient that I've worked with, and he has made himself relatively famous in the last few years. But he is a gentleman that has, a younger person that has what's called Stargardt's disease. And he came to me a few years ago, and then he wrote a letter about how this was affecting his life. And if your listeners can relate this to your parents, grandparents, family, friends that may have lost vision and can't do the things that they always planned to do in their life. Mm-hmm. But this is a note from this guy. So his name is Ronnie. So he had Stargardt's, and when he found out, what he says is the hardest part for me was accepting the fact that I wouldn't be able to be as active as I had before. And a disclaimer, I hope I make it through this for myself. But I played softball, basketball, and a ton of golf. All of those activities were now so tough to do, even impossible. The hardest part for me, and still is to this day, is the fact that I can't play sports anymore. My dad was very active in the same sports. I went everywhere with him, sat in the dugout at softball games, etc. And I wish I could do the same with my boys, but that's not possible, which is very hard for me. I've learned to deal with it by teaching my kids about the ins and outs of the sports I love, and will continue to do so. When I lost my vision, when I lost my driver's license, I was devastated. I had no idea how I would get to and from work, help out with kids. I felt like I was lost, but I tried to make the best of it, which is hard to do. I had willing co-workers, family members, friends help me over the last number of years, none of which took the brunt more than my wife. We had some tough days, but ultimately she handled everything the best she possibly could. She is a freaking rock. That being said, since I was able to get my driver's license back, and now I'm able to take my kids to school, sporting events, back to home by myself, it's made me so much more independent. It's helped ease my mind, and almost more importantly, my wife's mind. And that's low vision. Vision that's not good enough to do what you want to do, and that's the type of person or the people that I get to help. Most people I work with are in their, have lived most of their life. They're in their 80s, and usually it's with macular degeneration, but it can be any number of conditions. Albinism, diabetes, glaucoma, cataracts that can't have surgery done, any number of other conditions.
I am talking to Dr. Chris Palmer. He is from Low Vision Restoration in Blaine, with us on the Shaletta Show on the John Schuster Caldwell Banker Hotline. Now, how can folks reach you? Because they've been listening to us and they're saying, oh my God, this may be me. What Shaletta is saying sounds like what I was going through. And I always like to try and give people as much information as I can. When something is happening with me and my family, whether it is my kids with autism, a treatment or a therapy that works for them, or, it's like for me finding out about low vision, I try to pass it on to other people because I think, well, if I'm going through it and I find a solution, maybe I can help another family, another person who is experiencing that as well. So tell us, Dr. Palmer, how we can reach you.
Awesome. So for myself, and I'm going to end up to defer to others that are in the field of sorts too, and giving them a shout out. But so you can reach me and or what I do on my website, www.lowvisionofmn, like Minnesota.com, by email, which is the same at gmail.com. Our phone is 612-729-3030. And a lovely lady, Ann, who takes my calls, she'll have a quick interview or consultation over the phone to see if we're a match and to make appointments by fax at 612-930-4090. But on the deferment part of things, so I'm not the only one that does anything like or that helps people with vision issues. So locally, some other facilities are the State Services for the Blind in Minnesota.
Okay.
They don't offer the same kind of services, but there's that. Vision Loss Resources, the Low Vision Store, which I believe is in St. Paul. Anyway, there are some others, but I'm not it. And I'm really probably the low vision doctor in Minnesota.
Well, I am glad that you are here, that you took the time to chat with us about this and to inform our listeners who may be experiencing this and, couldn't figure out what the heck was going on. And now this may be the answer. Dr. Chris Palmer from Low Vision Restoration in Blaine, thank you for being on the Shaletta Show.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.